As anyone does, I imagined my prom would be a beautiful gown with my hair done, dancing the night away, but instead I was in a hospital gown having a double mastectomy, having my breasts removed. Hi, I'm Brittney Beadle, and I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer when I was 18. In February of 2015, I was still in high school. I was 18 years old. I was with my partner at the time, and he noticed a lump just kind of like sticking out of my right breast. So I went and I told my mom. She booked me an appointment with a doctor who saw it. I had an ultrasound and a mammogram that did confirm I had a lump, but the breast specialist said 18-year-olds don't get breast cancer and sent me home with a piece of paper that had like the word fibrosis or something on it that she said this is probably what it is. And then about 3 months later, I noticed the lump actually made my nipple go inverted. So I once again told my mom, and she made me another appointment with the breast specialist. And this time when I saw her, I saw a concerned look on her face when she saw that I had an inverted nipple. So she gave me another ultrasound and another mammogram, which confirmed there was 4 new friends that had grown in that time as well. And so she decided to do a biopsy. The very next day, I got a call saying my results were ready and asked if I could come in. And in the moment, I still felt like it was nothing because I was told 18-year-olds don't get breast cancer. So we went up to the hospital, and I remember when we arrived there, a nurse looked at me and she was like, "Your mom couldn't join you?" And I'm like, "No." And then she goes, "What a shame." And the breast specialist comes in and she sits down right next to me and just puts her hand on my leg and looks me in the eye and says, "Your results show you have breast cancer." So I dial up my mom and over the phone tell her that I have breast cancer. And I still remember the crack in her voice till this day saying, "What?" Like in disbelief and sadness and just shock. I had to miss my senior prom today, but Amber, my best friend, still came to visit me in the hospital. She was all dressed up in a beautiful gown, hair curled, looking stunning. I was in a gown too, a hospital gown with scars on my chest where my nipples once were. I didn't think this is the type of gown I would be on prom day. The second I caught my first glance of my new body, I gagged with disgust. Over time, it will get easier to look at myself again and learn to love my body in its new form. For now, I will focus on the bright side of it all. They said they got everything, lymph nodes and all. In my eyes, it's worth it to be cancer-free. I remember just like leaping up on the desk and being like, "How are my results?" And just a concerned look coming on her face. And she just opened the folder and like kind of pushed it towards me and said there were spots. And then started to talk about how it's all throughout my bones and in my liver. And I instantly asked, "Do I just do chemotherapy and it goes away?" And that's when she told me it's not curable, but it's treatable, and it'll be something that I have to live with for the rest of my life. And in that moment, it was really hard for me to hear because I'm an 18-year-old and I'm supposed to be graduating high school in a week. So I ran out of the room and ran down the halls, through the doors to like this little garden and just kind of like collapsed on a bench and just like asked why this was happening to me, because in this moment I just thought my life was over and that cancer just meant death. But after sitting in the garden for a little while, I just mustered up the courage and walked back in because the doctor wanted to talk to me. And I'm so glad I did, because she looked at me and said, "I know this is a scary diagnosis, but I have patients alive and well with this same disease that you have since the 90s. The future is bright. There are more and more treatments coming out all the time." And so in that moment, I decided that I was going to be one of those people who are alive and thriving for years to come, even with metastatic breast cancer. I had 6 rounds of the really hard chemo treatments, and then found out that through a PET scan that I had no evidence of disease in my body. And so everyone around me and we all celebrated, because this is what you want when you're living with cancer. I was at one of my maintenance chemo treatments, and my oncologist was doing his rounds, and he asked me how I was doing, and I just mentioned that I had a headache because I had a cold. So immediately he was like, let's order a brain MRI. And that very night of my brain MRI, I was out with my friends at the mall when my mom called me, and she was crying. And that's when she told me. My doctor called and told her that I had 7 small spots on my brain. And I lost it. Like, I always thought if it travels to my brain, I will not be able to handle that. The plan was to do full brain radiation, but then my amazing doctor literally sent my scans out to like the top doctors in the US, and I was actually eligible for a 1-day procedure called gamma knife. So basically they put like this metal frame on your head, and they are able to do a targeted radiation. So they could just zap away those 7 spots rather than your entire brain. It's much less side effects and is easier. By the way, I'm 4.5 years out of brain met, so I'm doing great in that department. Currently, I'm 8 years out of my diagnosis. The cancer is currently in my lungs, in my bones, but my liver and my brain are clear, which is fantastic. At every treatment, I always give my treatment itself, so my chemo, a little bit of love. So like I'll sit there while it's heading through my port into my veins, and I just like meditate and visualize it like going through my body with love, because I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of fear around chemo, and I feel like it's best to go into it with love, because I know chemo is hard, but it's saving my life. My living legacy is to spread hope and love whenever I can to whoever I can. And if you're going through the same diagnosis, I just want you to know that you can absolutely do this, even on those days, months, maybe even years that you crumble. There is always hope, and you will find your way through this, whether it's through your friends, through inner work like meditation, whatever it is, you are going to get through this, and there is hope. I'm Brittney Beadle, and this is my life. This is my legacy.